welcome back to Imperial Wealth's Crypto Chronicle podcast, where we're recording a history book of all the events that have happened in the cryptocurrency industry. We're going to be reporting to you on a weekly basis, so let's head live over to our team right now to discuss all things that have happened in cryptocurrency this week. All right, guys, welcome back to the Crypto Chronicle podcast. We've got a full house today. Got Mitchy boy in the house.
G'day.
Taylor.
Another storybook page turning.
And we've got another storybook page. We've got a special guest today, Simon from Coinstash. How are you, Simon?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you.
That's good.
Thanks for having me on.
No, it's good. Good to have you on board. We've had a fair few Mining Store and Imperial Wealth clients signing up to the Coinstash platform lately, and all reports have been positive so far. So thanks for everything that you and your team are doing.
Awesome.
Yeah, well, might hand over to Mitch. Mitch, you want to go through a couple of questions with Simon and ask her what Coinstash is about and give the viewers a bit of an insight.
Yeah, so Simon, why don't you first run us through what you do at Coinstash and then maybe just give a small brief history. Obviously, in its infancy for crypto, a lot of exchanges haven't been out a long time. I'm unsure how long Coinstash has been around, but it would be good to know that. And then, how you foresee Coinstash growing in the next couple of years in Australia?
Great question. So Coinstash started in 2019 in its current form, the web platform, but it actually first started through peer-to-peer trading through our founders, so King and I.
Mm-hmm.
I've known Ting since 2013, 14-ish. Both started our careers together in a previous life when we were both accountants, so to speak. And in about 2021, I joined the Coinstash team as the Chief Operating Officer / CFO. So I look after basically anything except marketing and product.
Busy man.
In between HR, operations, support, treasury managers.
I think one time I did go on to, we had a bit of a laugh about this. I went on Coinstash and I was looking up for a client that's been mining CAS with us, and he asked, does Coinstash hold CAS? And I went on Coinstash to figure it out myself and got on the live chat to support and had a lovely Simon on the other end talking to me, only to probably discover that I was talking to the actual Simon. I probably just could have WhatsApped you, but I think you cover a lot of roles down there. I think Mark, shout out to Mark. I think he's one of our great listeners from the Coinstash community, but he did joke one time that Simon does everything at Coinstash, so good on you, Simon. Well done.
Definitely keeps me on my toes.
Yes, yeah. So I guess from your end, and for any listeners, Coinstash obviously being a centralized cryptocurrency exchange, you offer different cryptos from Bitcoin to ETH to other altcoins. As I asked in the introduction, where do you see the real utility of Coinstash versus some other exchanges, and where do you foresee you guys going, and any other utility you might see in the future?
Yeah, another great question. So during the bull run, the most recent one, was a bit of a rising tide lifts all boats situation where there's a big influx of retail users and they had a lot of choice to choose from. So similar situation for us. We had a lot of users come on board, trade on the platform, buy Bitcoin, Ethereum, plus some of our currently we have about 800 coins on the platform. And as that bull run has sort of died down and we're in a bit of a bear market, it's forced a lot of exchanges, including ourselves, to have a think about which areas we want to focus on. And for us, we've recently gone through a rebranding process. And our main focus right now is on crypto investors, people who see crypto as a long-term investment, and they see the 3, 4, 5 years down the track, they see the potential of crypto to change the way in which we deal with our finances. So we aim to help our customers access that new world through bridging that gap by having fast AED on ramps and off ramps, and access to portfolio management strategies and a wide range of coins.
Yeah. Yeah, awesome. Yeah. That sounds fantastic. So I guess following on from that and with onboarding, obviously you mentioned you had a lot of retail come in the last bull run. Obviously in the last bull run in the Australian regulatory environment, there wasn't really any regulation and, you could load up your Coinstash account or, back then it was your Binance. You could onboard to Binance or many other exchanges and kind of freely invest and trade without any regulatory oversight. Now coming into this year and last year, we've seen the Australian government begin to tokenize, do token mapping and try and figure out a way to regulate in Australia. Now, the general consensus is that we're a bit behind the 8 ball in this area compared with other leading tech countries. So I just wanted your thoughts, given that, maybe for the next bull run when, a lot of people are going to be coming to Coinstash again, given that, banks like ANZ, Commonwealth, NAB and whatnot are beginning to block certain payments to cryptocurrency exchanges. Do you see any problems arising? Do you think soon enough, maybe in 2024, we'll have that clarity and maybe banks will be able to reinstate, the ability to deposit to certain exchanges?
Good question.
How do you see it happening?
I think generally that you're right. Regulation has been quite slow in Australia, and we're still operating in this sort of greyish, unregulated space in Australia, at least. For us, and there are other quite well-reputed legitimate exchanges out there. For us, what we do is we try to anticipate regulatory changes. So there's been a lot of talk about the licensing regime for crypto exchanges that may or may not come in the next year or year and a half. But we're preparing ourselves for that. So we like to operate in ways of we're preparing ourselves for regulation. So in terms of the banking and on and off ramping, that has been an issue for a lot of exchanges, or I guess anyone who wants to deal with cryptos ever since, I guess, Bitcoin was first immediate. I remember the first Bitcoin ATMs in like 2014, 15-ish, and they were shut down as well. And it's a constant struggle. And I think from my experience, what banks and payment processors are most concerned about, it's just scams and frauds. And we see a lot of exchanges, including ourselves, who have invested in tracking and compliance and money laundering and tools and
do you think that
track these things?
Do you think that whilst, in this industry in particular, more so than others, and irrespective of how you feel, there are prevalent scams and frauds, do you think, though, that somewhat the banks do use this as their main shield in completely shutting off the industry, given that they would be slightly worried about blockchain and decentralized technology and Bitcoin itself being a main competitor to their fiat currency and the way that their protocols work?
Yes.
I don't think that's necessary to see.
We're all thinking it, but Simon's going around it. I love it.
Simon's like, I need ANZ to allow me to
say this.
to have my business bank account open.
That's actually going to lead me to my question after when Simon answers. So
go
ahead. Sorry, Simon.
No, good. And I don't think banks necessarily see crypto as a threat. I think we're still a really smallish industry. If you think about the flows of crypto in and out, it's actually quite small compared to traditional flows. So I think what they're more concerned about is protecting the existing business, because there's pressure from regulators and governments to ensure that they I guess don't unwittingly be facilitating financial crime. Essentially.
I kind of agree.
Why would they put the main business at risk for a small thing like crypto from their point of view? But I think, just generally speaking, the government has said that scam prevention is their main priority. So it's interesting to see that the banks have come on board with this narrative, so to speak, and use that as a reason for limiting deposits to and from exchanges.
But once again, I've seen the banks release a fair bit of data on how much was scammed in terms of crypto And like you said, they want to save face by ensuring their customers aren't scammed by, crypto protocols and whatnot. But do they take extra measures to report the data on how much people lose in fiat per year to scams and stuff like that? Is that, I don't know if you know that, but
No, I'd be interested to know. Every time I hear someone that's been scammed in crypto that like really isn't in crypto is like, yeah, I've invested in Bitcoin mining. They took it off my credit card. And off a website. Like that's not getting scammed off crypto. That's just being scammed by an idiot.
Yeah, I feel like they like, especially with crypto, they don't understand it, so they just have this real blanket policy. Like, we talked about it a couple of times now, but when I did call the lady up, she's like, asked me, and do you have your own wallet? And I'm like, you don't even know what that means. Why are you even asking me off this script?
It goes the same way as that conversation we had last week about that client trying to pay, I think he's paying $100,000 to us, and the bank wanted to speak to me.
Or the payment, like where the payment's
teller.
going to.
And she's like, I just wanted to make sure that the deposit was received. And I said, well, you sent it yesterday. It hasn't landed in the account, but we've got the remittance. Everything looks fine. She's like, okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of good that they're taking caution.
Oh, he had 48 questions to answer before. Whereas, like, I took out $20K to buy a car, and I got, what car are you buying? That's it. You know what I mean? So it's just, pot calling the kettle black a bit. That's it.
All right, well, we'll move on to kind of the current state of the crypto market. Well, do you have a question?
I've got one question for Simon, and just to lighten the mood. Simon, we see every Australian crypto exchange sponsor an AFL team. Which one is Coinstash gonna sponsor next?
Well, they're Brisbane based, so they don't know what AFL is.
What do you mean? SwiftX is Brisbane.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh,
I thought it was Sydney.
Where's CoinSpot located, Simon? Are they Melbourne?
I believe they're in Melbourne.
Yeah, because they've got the
but I'm not
dogs.
exactly sure. But to answer your question,
Inside scoop.
we've had a few emails inquiries come through. And we always look at what's the return on these sponsorships. So can't rule anything out, but I can't promise anything either.
You want to go to a club that owns its own stadium?
Well, to be fair, I don't think the Crypto.com 5-year, $25 million AFL deals doing them all that well.
No,
I don't think too many Australians use Crypto.com.
Not now, anyway.
To be fair, going after the
they signed it peak bull run at the end of They signed it at the start of 2022.
This is Crypto.com.
Crypto.com.
For the AFL.
You might want to go visit their token price action.
I was going to say, Crypto.com sponsored everything though. Like they're still major sponsor of F1, everything.
Lakers arena as well.
Oh yeah, that was a
Crypto.com arena. I still think it is. But anyways, we'll move on slightly next. Now, Simon, you are an avid trader and investor yourself. You understand the market pretty well. I've been privy to your conversations, even your macroeconomic ones. Recently, you were talking about yields and how you kind of were foreseeing how the rates will either be cut or held on to, and how you kind of foresee the rest of the year playing into 2024. Now, are you still holding those thoughts? Do you think that the conflict in the Middle East will shape any heightened rate cuts quicker? Or because we've seen yields obviously start off this week coming down heavily, the stock markets have bounced a fair bit, and obviously Bitcoin has remained pretty stagnant. But how do you see all of this playing out in the coming months?
The left curve, the left field event that came through was obviously the Israel and Palestine conflict and escalation. So, firstly, I don't think anyone would support violence and bloodshed. I'm generally quite optimistic. I hopefully, we get a resolution to this, just from a humanitarian perspective. In terms of how it affects the markets, I don't know. I think historically, Bitcoin, and risk on assets have obviously dropped, but then rebounded. I don't know why. I think more the driving forces behind prices for risk on assets is more around supply and issuance of money, essentially, and liquidity conditions. So with bond yields going down, but they have been on an upward trajectory. need to finance US government spending somehow. Maybe they'll issue more bonds, yield curve control from the Fed, or potentially they might cut rates, or they may hold rates for a bit longer, cause more pain to the economy, and then decide whether to cut rates or issue new
all the whole world crashes and burns.
Yeah, it's hard to say. It's one of those situations where it's so hard to predict what will happen. But if all points, I think generally speaking, all roads lead to one path in an economy where the money is debased, and that basically means Fed printing.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's definitely something that I can see happening. Like Mitch, you were saying statistics before, like of the amount of debt they're in, and then to fund another war or two.
Yeah,
I don't think they can afford it with the interest rate that's at the moment. They're going to have to bring that down. So that's one narrative. But something that interesting, it's usually those flow-on effect things that, like when the Russia war happened or is happening, we saw them getting cut off from banking payments around the world.
Yeah.
The SWIFT banking system. And remember, Bitcoin had that rally because everyone's like, well, the only way they're going to be able to deal now is through cryptocurrency. So like those strange things can happen.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think anyone's in the same position as you, Simon. You can't really predict what's going to happen, but those are the things to be aware of that may happen.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess we'll move on to, would you like to hang around a bit longer, Simon, or do you need to head off?
No, not at all. Oh.
Okay, awesome. Well,
strap in, Simon.
Simon's currently talking to the chat, trading. He's on the podcast today. He's got 19 hands.
He's got futures on one screen. He's probably playing, maybe doing an SBF and playing LOL on one screen. Well, we'll move on. Obviously, Simon, we've got a little group that we speak in, and you've been mentioning a project that you like named Prime. It's obviously in the gaming industry, but obviously something that popped up this week and something that's discussed always in the cryptocurrency industry is Elon's influence and what will happen there. So obviously they're bringing game streaming to Twitter. Who knows if that then involves crypto later on with tipping services and Doge and whatever it may be. But I guess I wanted to ask you, and for our listeners, is it gaming that you think is one of the next big industries in crypto, or how do you see all of this playing out? And is Prime your pick?
Putting him on the spot.
Not NFA, by the way. Everyone.
Like probably the peak, so it's sort of a retrace back a little bit. So not the best entry, but I think GameFi is very interesting. As long as the people who behind the projects focus on the gaming aspect as opposed to the tokenomics behind it, because you can really, this is my personal opinion, you can really make the game not fun by focusing too much on the earn aspect. So that's what I like. That's why I like Prime. You actually don't find them too active on Twitter. They're, I believe, backed by Paradigm and ex-CEO and co-founder of YouTube. So there's a few things going for it. But yeah, it's still early stage investment, very risky. It's interesting how it plays out.
There's definitely a big base for it, right? Like gaming, people love doing it even when they got to pay to do it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a very competitor with Steam, right? Isn't it?
Well, P2E could be big. I guess the question on everyone's mind is how well NFTs can be integrated into it.
Yeah,
whether,
exactly.
That becomes a thing. I always think of games like Counter-Strike, where you've got all these knives and all these things. Yeah, and whether they eventually switch over to a blockchain marketplace type technology as opposed to just the Steam marketplace with fiat.
That's surely a matter of time.
Yeah, you'd think so, but I would have thought by now I'm not too sure. Maybe they just oppose it because of the inherent risk in it. And
my biggest one that I want to see happen, and this is a project I wanted to do, it's just too large scale.
Here we go.
It's the betting side of it, yeah?
Yeah.
I can go on Counter-Strike 5v5 game and we can stake, my team versus yours, $500, winner takes all in Ethereum.
Yeah, it's a smart contract. Yeah.
Smart contract connected to the game platform,
Because there's tournaments that do that now.
Yeah, but
not you're talking in the sense of like you want to play me in that sense. Oh,
PvP style,
online ping pong.
You want to trade Nobu?
It's probably possible. There's probably something out there.
Like it's, I shouldn't be giving all my good ideas away.
We'll stick that one in the slow cooker.
We will. I'll briefly just mention. I don't know if anyone else or Simon, you have comments on this, but obviously, we'll briefly tell our listeners that Garry Wang in the court case came out and pretty much said we screwed everyone and we did commit all this fraud, and
Shocking.
They made a backdoor and all the payments were going to Alameda Research, who were then gambling away all of the customer funds.
What a bombshell.
So there was that. And then the also other big piece of news to come out of last week in terms of the regulatory space in America was that the judge did deny the SEC's request to pursue an appeal in the Ripple case for now.
That's actually pretty big news.
Yeah, it is. But I'm starting to really worry for the XRP holders because it's currently priced at less than what it was priced at before they won the case. Then it's the SEC's appealed and they're not allowed to appeal. But then they've been telling you that price has only been suppressed because of this court case for the last 3 years. So I'm starting to think...
It's going to hit $1. It's going to do it.
Well, it's I'd be interested to know whether Duncan thinks that what Chainlink are doing now with all their institutional clients is what XRP wanted to do the whole time. And they're just not. I don't know if Simon has an opinion and whether he's looked too far into the CCIP and what Ripple offers, but I can't imagine it's too far apart. Maybe.
The other question I have with like Chainlink and XRP and I guess tokens in general is how is the value accrued to the token? That's always my first question. I'm not familiar with XRP, but I did look into Chainlink for a little bit. And again, this is just my personal opinion. And I think the main value accrual to Chainlink is if you compare what's the alternative to Chainlink, and that's the legacy traditional financial system.
Yeah.
If Chainlink can make the cost of transacting on the legacy financial system 10 times cheaper, then naturally you think, okay, well, 10 times, what's the value that can shift from the legacy financial system to Chainlink? And that's, I think, how the token accrues value. You can go into the technical aspects of supply and demand and think, okay, more people buying today, less people selling tomorrow, therefore the price goes up. But I think if you think about the network effects, I think that's where the value accrue is how much value is captured in the token versus the alternative.
Yeah.
And that's exciting. Like that's why I can understand why there's lots of Link Marines out there because if even 1/10 of the world's Swift network remittance volume is done through a Chainlink CCIP enabled process, then I could see Chainlink value go up. But token valuation is always very hard. Like there's no science behind it, like there is with DCF traditional finance. So you have a lot of people with different perspectives, and my perspective is only just one of them.
Yeah. Well, I guess majority of it comes from speculation anyway. So
I don't know about you, but I get mine straight from the source. So
I don't know about you guys. You guys read into projects. I just trade meme lines. Whatever works.
Exactly.
But we'll move on to a bit of. We can quickly talk about actually just before we do move on to wrap things up with just a bit of technical analysis and mining. Is this new Bitcoin BitVM white paper that was produced by Robin Linus, who's a Bitcoin developer but had been working on ZK Sync. So essentially it was like I think the white paper was called Compute Anything on Bitcoin, and I've seen a few Bitcoin maxis come out and say, this is the demise of all altcoins now, because what do you need altcoins for if you can do this on Bitcoin? So essentially it allows for Bitcoin contracts without altering the consensus rules, and I think it's similar to roll-ups in that you can shift the computation but still have the validators do the work. So I don't know, it'll be interesting to see if it holds any merit. I know, Simon, you saw the headline but you haven't read too far into it. If you remember, we went to Consensus and they were just then talking about Tree and what was Taproot soft fork. So what it does is it relies on the Taproot soft fork But then it's heavily influenced by the Ethereum optimistic rollups, but kind of uses the Merkle tree.
Merkle tree standard. Yeah.
So it all comes together. And it's interesting if it can be pulled off, because maybe it does make a few...
In layman's
projects
terms,
were
it's
done.
essentially Ethereum on the Bitcoin network, right?
Essentially.
Yeah.
So that's why the maxis are saying, what's the point in Ethereum anymore if we can then do roll-ups and all this different types of Bitcoin, and it's cheaper and
I suppose
faster.
there's always room for something new, you know what I mean? You could say the same thing about, optimism and, Arbitrum or, different forks. There's all these different, there's different transaction fees, different communities that want to build on there. Not everything is tailored to the one basket, I would say.
Yeah.
So I still think there's room for everything. But yeah, I'd love it to happen. I think it'd be good for Bitcoin mining, I would say. More transactions on the network, transaction fees higher.
Yeah.
I'm all for that.
Yeah,
definitely something to further look into.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, well, we'll quickly conclude with some quick technical analysis and mining discussion. Last week when we held the podcast and had the Chronicle produced, we were priced at 27.5K. A week later, we are priced at 27.5K.
Mate, that is stablecoin territory right there.
But it did reach as high as, I think, Saturday morning. I actually admittedly attempted a short up around 28K and was stopped out pretty swiftly on Titan validation at 28.4K. We wicked up there pretty fast. And then I think yesterday or the day before, last night, we visited as low as 27.25K, but mainly traded around the mid 27Ks. So obviously there hasn't been too much to report on Bitcoin, but what I will say is the most important thing for investors out there to be wary of is Bitcoin dominance, which has been on an absolute tear. I think I looked when I woke up this morning, it was up 0.7% in a daily candle, which is a large amount.
Yeah.
Massive.
For dominance. So it's above 51% right now. And what you're seeing is as BTC trades sideways up and down, and let's call it consolidation in kind of a $1,000 range, you'll just see altcoins bleed and bleed and bleed, which we've seen on Solana I looked at this morning. Arbitrum, I closed that long this time last week at 97 cents, and it was at 83 cents this morning. So that's how much steam it's lost.
Where was Sol at? I haven't checked that today, actually.
Huh?
Where was Sol at when you checked this morning?
22 flat. So yeah, it's come down a bit. And then, you can go look at other major alts, but yeah, essentially be wary on your longs or on any entries at the moment, because, as BTC sees any pullbacks or, consolidation, alts are most likely to continue to bleed until we get a large Bitcoin pump and then see a reduction in that Bitcoin dominance. But really the main kind of technical analysis that you should be looking at is what me and Simon were discussing before, which is yields. The DXY is something that's hugely important. We just put in our first weekly candle that closed red in 12 weeks.
Yes.
So that was a good sign. So it tapped the equilibrium or the 0.50 major Fibonacci retracement and rejected, and it currently trades just north of 106 or maybe less than 106. Why don't you give us an update, Taylor?
Mate, just open it. Just want to check if it's 106.06.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, look at that. That's beautiful.
So yeah, kind of as a result of the DXY finally getting red, yields coming down, we've seen the S&P 500 and NASDAQ both begin green this week mainly, and kind of remain steady, and Bitcoin's kind of remained the same. So we briefly spoke about the war in Israel and Palestine, which presents a bit of a situation that no one can really predict. I do have stats that the S&P 500 performance around these geopolitical and military events is overwhelmingly positive usually. So, the usual theme is 1 month afterwards, you've probably seen a lot of volatility and maybe a minor pullback, but then 3, 6, 12 months later, it's actually usually overwhelmingly positive. Obviously, that's just a historical fractal. It doesn't mean that it will happen, but just something to be aware of, that markets do suggest that the data does suggest that markets recover quite quickly. So something to note of. Simon, do you have any comments around anything markets wise? Doesn't matter if it's the stock markets, the DXY, Bitcoin.
Supermarket, doesn't matter.
Woolies or Coles?
No, I think you covered it all. That was great.
Awesome.
Always like hearing your commentary. It's always on point.
Yeah, thank you.
The jokes are cracking.
Now, Taylor, do you want to give us a little mining rundown of what's occurring?
I'll be quick because I know Simon's got chat sport to get to as well, and obviously we're flat out. It's been actually a pretty stable week in the sense of BTC mining. Not much happened. Bitcoin's price still pretty much similar. The only main downfalls we've had is hash rate's gone up quite a bit, sort of now teetering between sort of 420 and 440. I checked before and it was at 490. So it's sort of going up and down as we go through the next few cycles.
I feel like once per week we log on Twitter, and if you follow the Bitcoin magazine and the documenting Bitcoin, and you'll just go on and you'll see hash rate and everyone's celebrating it. And I'm like, yeah, it's good. Not for us though.
It's kind of a good thing and a bad thing. As much as you're right, like it really does suck because obviously it's pushing difficulty and vice versa. It does give a little bit of conviction for those that are sort of like, well, am I doing the right thing?
Yeah.
I've been mining for 12, 24 months. Should I continue? So it does give you a little bit of conviction in that sense, which is a small positive, at least mentally. The bigger things that we're seeing at the moment is I guess block rewards have shrunk quite a bit, about 30% in the past few days. And that just probably means, lower transactions. We've sort of seen, a little bit of a stalemate with transactional fees dropping a little bit as well. It hasn't exactly helped us. I think block rewards are sitting at about 0.1314, I think, at the moment. So it's dropped about 20% in that sense. But in other aspects, right, looking apart from Bitcoin, that's sort of when you start to see the positives. Doge, all those sort of things are all starting to drop quite a bit now. Difficulty dropped by about 24% on Doge this week. I think, what was the other one we had? Litecoin also dropped a bit, only 1.5 though.
Yeah.
Dash dropped by 24. That's the one. Sorry, I was trying to remember which one it was. I was like, well, it's the one that you can't even get miners for at the moment. That's how good it is. So, there's lots of other little bits and pieces that you can do. Bitcoin obviously is just more of a long-term thing. When it comes to, mining alts, it's a little bit more of a shorter-term goal.
Yeah.
So, anyone who bought an L7 in the last few months is looking in pretty good stead, even post-halving for Litecoin.
Yeah, I was just talking to a client that bought an L7. He was pretty happy with how it's going.
Yeah.
But my only comments on it would be it's just the classic, like when others are fearful, be greedy. People get always sucked in the top of the market. When the daily return, which is the worst way to calculate mining returns, is really high, and they just go, oh yeah, yep, I would like to get into that and pay like out of the arse. Part of my French, but paying probably double or triple what you'd be paying for a miner now. Like, why not buy the miner now, accumulate over the next 3-6 months, even 12 months, and then you can sell that miner later if you wanted to, but you've just accumulated it all and got the miner for half the price.
Yeah, I know. I'm not looking forward to that when that happens. So I'm going to have to change my phone number. Anyone I've spoken to in the past 12, 24 months is going to be like, oh, that dude I spoke to about Bitcoin, I'm going to get into it now.
Yeah. It gets ridiculous.
It's just crazy. So obviously don't wait for that. Last thing you want to do, buy at the bottom, sell at the top. Same thing goes for mining.
Set yourself up now.
Simple strategy, right?
No, that's exactly it. Well,
Simon, have you got any miners?
No, I don't.
Call me.
I would be interested in one. It seems like a nice way to arbitrage power prices and token price.
Yeah, 100%.
We can look after you.
Nowhere to go.
Alrighty, well, I think that should wrap us up unless anyone has anything to add. If not, thank you so much, Simon from Coinstash, for coming on. For all our listeners, Coinstash is our #1 Australian provider of being a cryptocurrency exchange, and we highly recommend that that's what you use if you are going to opt for an Australian cryptocurrency exchange. It's been awesome speaking to you, Simon, and hearing your thoughts on everything.
No worries. Thanks so much for having me. One of your
might have you on
fans. Oh, sorry. I'm one of your biggest fans.
I love that we've got an exchange person who's like a big fan. That's perfect. Can you help me get money from my account?
We'll have you on again down the line, I reckon. Well, thanks heaps, everyone, and we're looking forward to next week's.
Thank you very much. Thanks for your time, Simon.
Thank you.
See you, mate. Bye-bye.